If you've ever crossed your legs during jumping jacks or stopped mid-workout to take a pee break, or every time you do squats, you leak, this episode is for you. I am so glad you're here because Potty Talk, which is my podcast that I've been doing for a couple years, took a little break in between, but just trying to find my rhythm. And we are now doing tiny tips for your pelvic floor. So keeping these episodes nice and short, easy to listen to. And, for me, when I listen to podcasts, I normally do it while I fold laundry or go for a walk. So if you're one of those people, good on you, awesome work on multitasking. Love it. I'm there for that. But if you're just, hey, I'm going to chill, I'm just going to sit, I'm going to take some time for me on the couch. I'm also a huge couch lover myself. Grab a tea. I have say yes to adventure because this is a new adventure for me. Say yes to new adventures, right? So I thought that cup is perfect for today's episode because I'm saying yes and I'm just doing it. So this might not be perfect. I mean, what is perfect? And it was one of the things where I was like, I thought about it for a long time and it was like, okay, just do it. And what's different too is I'm also going to be posting these on YouTube as well. So for those of you who are watching, hey, and if you're listening, hello as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about leaking when you exercise. I see this all the time. Women feel embarrassed. They either just push through it or they avoid workouts completely. And we don't want that. We want to keep moving and we can keep moving and we can just make small changes and over time see some amazing good changes so we can stop those leaks from getting worse. So we're going to keep this nice and simple. And I really want to focus on breath. So if you're going to take anything away from this is just creating awareness on how you're breathing through your workouts. So your deep core, it functions like a pressurized cylinder. So if you think about it, and if you can visualize this, if you're listening on YouTube, I'm hoping to have a little diagram beside me so you can see what this looks like. But if you think about it and visualize this, you think of the cylinder. So you have your diaphragm on top. That's your breathing muscle. Okay. Then you have your transverse abdominis on the sides. Okay. That's your stabilizer, like your corset muscles. And then you have your spine and you have muscles called your multifidus. Okay. That's your spine. And then at the bottom, you have your pelvic floor. Okay. So that is your pressurized cylinder. Okay. So when force or physical efforts are applied, that canister has to contain that pressure and redirect it safely. But what happens if there's any weakness or tension? So let's say if you're bearing down, so like holding your breath and bearing down, and that could be on the most hardest part of that exercise, right? So if you think about like your bicep curl and you're curling your arms up with your weights, or when you're standing up from a weighted squat, and you're bearing down, that pressure is going to go downwards and it's going to go to that weakest part. So, which could be leaking, right? That symptom might happen, leaking, or you might feel like pressure down in your vagina. Or it's going to go forward. So it's going to create more of a forwards pressure. So right, that pressure goes outwards or coning. Coning's a big thing that you see, that coning could be risk of like a hernia, or it might push backwards, creating more back pain, right? So we need that pressure to be managed. And if we're not breathing properly and we're bearing down, holding our breath, then we're going to start to notice those symptoms like leaking, like back pain, like pressure in the vagina, like that coning. You might notice coning during planks or sit-ups, or maybe even like bicycles, right? And that's why pressure is going to that weakest point. So a couple things is one tip I would give you and take away today is, first of all, just create awareness of your breath. Depending on the workouts, like sometimes with hit style workouts, they're obviously high intensity. You're giving it your all, but maybe just take a second to slow down, listen to your body, right? Don't pick up the heaviest weights, and see if that changes. Just the shift in like creating awareness. Like, you know what? Maybe during that 30-second hit, I am holding my breath the whole time. And if you think about it, you're holding your breath, you're giving it your all, which again, you want to challenge yourself, but if you're having symptoms, we don't want to push it. Okay, so just kind of listen. Okay, you know what, maybe I'll slow down a little bit and listen to my body. Or maybe it's through strength training, right? You start to notice, oh my god, I do hold my breath, I'm not focusing on my breathing. Just first step is just to create awareness, right? That's always going to be your first step to change. And then start to exhale on the hardest part of the workout, or the movement rather. So if you're squatting, so you squat down, you inhale as you come down, you exhale as you come up. Inhale down, exhale up. So always think about, start to just add more breathing into your movements. Try not to hold your breath. And I will tell you, like, I've worked with so many women, and just that one little tip is like, oh my gosh, Crystal, I don't even breathe through my workout at all. And it makes a huge difference when you just take that little tiny step to say, okay, listen to my body. Am I breathing it? Am I breathing through my movements? And it just will help to connect better. Reason why it connects better is how your breathing works is when you inhale, your diaphragm contracts down. The pelvic floor also pulls down, and the pelvic floor lengthens. It's in prep mode. I call it prep mode. And then when you exhale, the diaphragm pulls up and the pelvic floor lifts with it. So inhale down, exhale lift. Okay, so we get this nice little dance. When we inhale, we're prepping the body. When we exhale, we can get that exertion, right? We're getting that lift and support. Inhale, relax, exhale, lift and support. So we want to use that breathing and use it with our movements. Okay, so we're not doing the opposite, right? If we're taking that big inhale and breath hold and bearing down on the hardest part of the workout, that pressure is going to go to that weakest point. And that's where we're going to notice those leaks. Okay, so just start to be aware of your breathing patterns. That's just the first step. Okay, and just and sometimes too, it's like, okay, maybe you got to lessen the weights a little bit. Try not to muscle through. And I'm saying this is not permanent. This is just starting to, we don't want to leak, right? We don't want to push through. We don't want to use like the 20-pound weights and then be like, yeah, using 20-pound weights, but every time I do, I leak. It's okay to scale back a little bit just to learn. We need to retrain the body, retrain the breathing. And one more tip too is just be mindful of how you're stacking yourself. So are your ribs over your pelvis? Because this sort of stacking will ensure that we're directly getting that nice alignment, and we're getting that optimal distribution for that breathing and managing that pressure in the canister. So if you notice that you rib flare, so meaning your ribs are more forward than your pelvis, just soften the rib cage back and just stack yourself. These little tiny changes. So first and foremost, think about your breath. Your next workout, just be mindful. Take that first, okay, am I breathing? Am I holding my breath? Notice that. So if you're noticing that you're holding your breath and you're not breathing properly, exhale on the hardest part of the movement. So standing up from a squat, lifting the weights. So whether it's lifting the weights into like up, so the hardest part, so bicep curl. So you want to exhale as you curl up, inhale to release. And you can also adapt this into your day-to-day life. So like every time you pick up a heavy box, you inhale down, exhale, pick it up. So just you can utilize it not just in your workouts, but in other aspects of your life and movement in your life. So just start to notice, because if you're holding your breath and you're bearing down, that pressure is going to go to the weakest point. And if there is any sort of weakness in the pelvic floor, then that's when you're going to feel the leaks. If there's any weakness in the front of the core, that's when you're going to get that bulge and that coning. Weakness in the back, that back pain, or maybe you're having all three. So think about your breath, and then if you're really wanting to get into it, just think about, look in the mirror. How are you stacking yourself? Are your ribs over your pelvis? So we can manage that pressure better. So we have a nice system to manage and to make sure that we're keeping the pressure in the canister for optimal pressure distribution. So going all over the place, 360 breathing too. Okay. And when I say breathing, I'm going to side note on this one. It's diaphragm breathing, not chest breathing. Okay. So really make sure we want to use that diaphragm. Big breath in, exhale out, breathe into the bra band, breathe into the rib cage. It's little tiny awareness, little tiny habits that are going to make big changes. Trust me. So start with this. Leaking doesn't mean that your body is broken. It usually usually means that you just need better coordination and better support, and it starts here. So share this episode with a friend. Share it with that friend that's like, oh my God, we're just like, we laugh about peeing our pants all the time. I see it all the time. Follow the podcast cast, DM Reset if you want to know more information about how you can work with me and just learn more about yourself. And I thank you so much for listening to the first ever Tiny Habits, not Tiny Habits. See, this is where I'm going to tiny tips podcast. I'm all about the tiny because tiny just, you learn more when you just take little pieces and adapt them in. So that's all about my training, is just building those little habits in. So that's why I'm getting, keeping on brand here. But thank you so much. I appreciate you listening, and I can't wait to share more tips with you guys. Okay, take care.